Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a spring book unhaul. I don't know if I've done a book unhaul yet in 2021. I don't remember. I'm sure I have. But I just reorganized my bookshelves, I think about 2 weeks ago, and I am getting rid of a couple of books. It's not a ton, but I do want to share with you guys what books I decided to get rid of. But before we go ahead and get on into the unhaul, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box for links to all of my social media, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways. The first 3 books are arcs that are a couple of years old, and they're young adult books, and I'm going to be putting them in my classroom. I've had them on my shelves for probably about 2 years, and I've just completely lost interest in reading them. And the first one is The Stars We Steal by Alexis. This is a book that I did have on my TBR last year, but I've just kind of lost interest in it, and it doesn't have the best rating on Goodreads, and I'm not like a Goodreads rating snob, but I do take that into account when deciding what books I want to read. But this is described as a Bachelor in space, like The Bachelor, the TV show, in space, which sounded kind of interesting to me. It follows a girl who was best friends with this guy, and he ended up going away, came back, and was like all of a sudden the most eligible bachelor, and she realized, I guess, she had feelings for him and had to vie with all of these other girls to win his heart, I suppose, and it takes place in space. And I know that Alexis does a lot of, like, I guess, twists on original tales and things like that. And unfortunately, I've just lost interest in reading it, so I'll put it in my classroom and maybe some of my students will enjoy it and tell me if they like it or not. The next one is Traitor by Amanda Macrina. This is a YA historical fiction, which isn't something that I don't think I've read ever, or maybe I've read like a couple of them. And once again, this book I won in a giveaway, and the ratings are not terribly good, but it follows the years after World War II, and I think it follows 2 characters who are kind of like on opposite sides, and it takes place in the Soviet Union part of the world after the events of World War II, and you have the Red Army fighting with some of these rebels in the Ukraine, I believe, and these 2 boys kind of come together to deal with what's going on. I was slightly interested in this just because of the historical aspects. I don't really know a lot about, that part of the world during that time period, and I might still give this one a go if I'm ever in the mood for historical fiction, but it's just not a priority for me right now, so I'm going to put it in my classroom, and if I ever want to read it, I can definitely pick it up, but as of right now, it's just coming off of my main bookshelves. The next book is The Queen's Assassin by Melissa de la Cruz. I have never read anything by this author before, and same thing, this book does not have the best ratings. I think, in fact, it's the lowest rated book that I owned, and none of her work has particularly ever spoken to me. But as far as I know, this follows a main character that works for the queen as an assassin, and he's like bound to her. And then we follow a female character that wants to be in this like assassin guild, but her mother wants her to be a lady of the court. And then somehow the 2 characters' paths cross. I'm sure that there's a romance in there. The plot sounds slightly intriguing. It does sound like something that I would read in a YA fantasy, but just the fact that none of her books have ever really spoken to me, and because of the low rating, I think I'm going to pass on this one, but same thing, it's going in my classroom, so if I ever feel the urge to pick it up, I can just grab it. The next books are part of a trilogy, and that is the Graceling trilogy by Cassour, and those books include Graceling, Fire, and Bitter Blue. I ended up picking up Graceling a couple of years ago when it was super hyped, and I read it, and I really was disappointed in it. I thought it was going to be a lot better than it was. I felt like it spent way too much time between our main character, I don't remember her name, Katsa, and her love interest, Beau, rather than addressing the actual conflict of the plot and this evil, evil king. It just spent way too much time on their relationship. And then I know that Fire follows a different character, and so does Bitter Blue. Bitter Blue was in the first book, but she was a child, and I think this follows her as she is growing up or grown up. So every time I saw this series on my shelf, I was like, I don't have good memories of reading Graceling, and I had absolutely no desire to pick up Fire or Bitter Blue, so I just decided it's time to get rid of it. These I will probably also put in my classroom because they're young adult, so once again, if I ever choose to pick it up or get the urge, then I will have access to it. The next book I'm going to be getting rid of is Sea of Rust by C. Robert Cargill. This is an adult sci-fi that I read earlier this year. I think it was the second sci-fi book I read this year, and I picked it up for a couple dollars off a book outlet years ago, so I'm glad I didn't spend a lot of money on it. And this book can be read as a standalone. However, he did just recently come out with a sequel, and I do have a full review for this, so I'll link it up in the cards if you're interested in my thoughts on why I didn't like this book. So I'm not going to go into it too much, but this book was just way too like action movie-esque for me, and I felt like the characters weren't really developed enough. I felt like the story was very recycled, and just nothing about this book, plot, setting, characters spoke to me enough to want to read the sequel, or enough to feel compelled to keep this book on my shelf. So time to let it go. And lastly, I'm getting rid of the first 2 books in a series that I have never read this author before, and I picked these 2 books up for like $2 online at some point, and they've just been sitting on my shelves, and I just feel no interest in reading them. And I had one of my subscribers talk about the 3rd book in this series and just what a huge letdown it was, and I was like, well, if it's that bad, I don't want to invest time in the first 2 books and then just be disappointed in the 3rd, and that is Emissary by Thomas Locke and book 2, which is The Merchant of Elis. Well, first off, these covers are absolutely beautiful. I love the colors. I really don't know anything about this series. I think it's like a light fantasy adult series, and that's all I know about it, but I just haven't heard anything really about the series for me to feel like I need to read it, and I have so many fantasy series that I need to get to, and like I said, I only paid a couple dollars for them, so I don't mind unhauling them, especially if that 3rd book is a big disappointment. So these are going in the unhaul pile too. Okay, you guys, so those are just a couple of books that I am unhauling to make room on my shelves for all the new stuff that I have gotten. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. Maybe if there are some that I should keep around and read, and I will see y'all soon in another video. Goodbye.